it'll be an experience of going through this.
Like a history lesson.
Kind of, yeah, a history lesson. Because obviously, if you guys think about a cell phone, what do you guys think about? Well, you think about a data plan and, probably not even a data plan. Most of you probably have unlimited whatever, right? So, back in the day, if you turn to page 354, this is what we're talking about with wireless phone service, okay? So basically, if you look at this little dark blue chart, okay? This shows you the plans that you could get. All right, so we have 4 different companies across the top. And then down the left-hand side, it kind of talks about certain, I guess what you would say, benefits of each package. Okay, so as soon as you decide to go on with one of these companies, most of them had an activation fee. Pretty self-explanatory, right? It's basically opening up your system in your phone, okay? And then you go through and then they show you the basic monthly rates. All right, so I don't know, comparable or not, who knows? Because what you would get in your basic monthly rate would be totally different than what we got back even 15, 20 years ago. All right, so there's going to be that fee. And then notice, so they have a phone price. Some of them charge for the phone, some of them didn't. And then they get into things that you probably don't even really know. Any idea what the difference between peak minutes are and off-peak minutes? Does that make any sense to you?
Peak is when there's a lot of people on the phone.
Okay. Well, yeah. Peak minutes would be like during the day. So you would get charged more if you didn't have minutes. You would get charged more during the day to use your cell phone. So off-peak would have been what? Probably before 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and after 7 or 8 o'clock at night. A lot of the times that those sections of time were actually free, okay? But you would have to buy those kind of minutes, and as they show here, see how peak minutes and off-peak, some of them charge for it, some of them, or you got a certain amount of minutes per whatever, I guess, plan you decided on. So this is where a lot of you, at the beginning, remember when kind of data was a new thing, even to you guys? How many of you went over your data plan? Right? All the time, probably. So what happened? Well, then mom and dad or whoever decided, hey, let's go to the, where there's unlimited plans, right? Same thing happened here. So, but do you remember what you had to pay for extra data?
I don't know. I just got yelled at.
Yeah, you just got yelled at, right?
3 gigs at $5
Right.
Yeah, 2 gigs.
And then you got an extra gig for a certain price, right? Well, it's the same concept, but here, back in the day, we did it with minutes. Okay, so notice, peak minutes, some of them were unlimited, but the off-peak, again, it was probably more ordinary that it was unlimited. So again, after 8 o'clock, you could call whoever you wanted. Okay, so that's what those 2 things mean. Each extra minute is just telling you if you went over. So when you said you went over the gig, you didn't know what it cost because mom and dad just paid for it, but that's what we're talking about. So notice across here, each extra minute was anywhere from 45 to 25 cents per minute that you went over. Now here's the other thing about cell phones back in our day. When I would call Dylan and Dylan would answer the phone and then hang up on him, that charged him a whole minute. Okay? And if you call the landline, now most of us don't have landline now, but you could call the landline and you would have to use your minutes for that too. So you were always kind of counting minutes, or you didn't just mess around with people. And at the beginning, like text messages, each text message was a charge, right? You guys even remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah? So you would have a certain number of texts in your plan, so you'd get 100 texts, but that's where every single text that you said okay in, that would have charged you for one. Right? So, you know, like when you talk to your dad or something and he gave you the thumbs up, well, now it's not that big of a deal, but back then that cost you a whole nother text. You know what I mean? So you were always watching for those things, but that's what that means. So, how about a roaming charge? What's the difference between a roaming charge and a long distance charge?
Roaming would be you're in like a place for a certain amount of time, it's like not covered
Yeah.
by your carrier.
Yeah, right? And so now, do we even worry about that ever? Heck no, right? Even, maybe.
I was in the Verizon store one day and some lady came in and said she was going to Greece or something, and said she needed to do something to her plan.
Right, okay, so different, kind of a different thing, but yeah, at the same time. So now, you know, there's some plans where if you go on vacation to Mexico, it's not that even a big deal in Mexico. You can go across borders and still use your phone. But that's where she was gonna probably change to an international plan or something like that, right? So roaming would be, yeah, if I was, you know, the whole commercial now of, can you hear me now? That's what roaming was, right? Roaming was you're driving down the middle of the road in the middle of Nebraska and your phone would just shut off, right? Because you didn't have any reception there. Now, obviously, there's towers and everything all over the place now, but that's what we had to deal with, okay? Or you went under a bridge or something or whatever, you know? That would be roaming. Compared to long distance, then you would have to actually set up your, and put your phone number in, and where your phone number was, or your area code, that only allows you to call those certain numbers. Anything outside of that was a long distance call. So even, now I'm not saying now everything across counties, maybe, Plymouth County to Woodbury County, so if you had friends in Lawton and you were trying to call them, sometimes that would be still in your plan, sometimes it wouldn't. Okay, so you'd have to know where your little plan was, but that was long distance. So not only did you have to worry about your minutes, the long distance then went on top of the minutes that you had, plus you got charged for long distance. So it was a real kind of pain in the, you know what, right? And then obviously you go through the rest of it. It says your contract period and then your cancellation fee. Okay, so I know this isn't real, what I would say, realistic to you guys, but just to go through this process and actually think about what they're saying is going to help you just with your mind, okay? So you're not necessarily ever going to have to do this, but at the same time, we're just going to go through this so you actually have to think a little bit. So, letter A. I don't know what this person's name is. We'll call him F. F's company provides him with a cell phone and service plan from Telco. So, in the ones in this example and in the homework, make sure that you go back and you're looking at this little chart. Or on the quiz and the test, you'll be given a chart, okay? So during May, he used the phone for 500 peak minutes. Taxes and other charges were $12.50. What was F's telco phone bill for May? So go over here. What does telco charge?
45 cents for anything over 450.
Okay, so this is where technically it gets a little confusing because it didn't say that this guy or lady F started their plan this month, right? So you would have to assume that there is no activation fee. You're only going to pay that activation fee one time, and that's right when you first get it. That makes sense? Okay, so what's my basic monthly rate? $39.99, right? So we got to have that. And then, did we go over our minutes?
Yeah.
How many minutes did we go over? So we had 50 extra minutes at how much, Johnny?
45 cents.
45 cents per minute, right? So we're going to take 50 times 45. Any other things that we're adding together? We got our taxes, right? Which is another $12.50. And what do we get?
$74.99.
Grand total of $74.99. So this is where your bill back in the day would really fluctuate. Now, if you guys, I don't even know if you ever even see your bill, because mom and dad or somebody else pays for it probably. I don't know, okay? But basically, my bill, unless it's a yearly surplus, meaning, you know, at the end of the fiscal year, they increase some taxes or whatever. So mine went up, I don't know, 79 cents. But basically, my bill is pretty set, right? And yours is probably the same way. Your families or however you do it. But this person's could fluctuate quite a bit, couldn't it? Okay, because we didn't even get into all the other things, but it could really fluctuate one way or the other. All right, so let's look at B. Teleron and Company buys a service plan for 3 cell phones from Wireless. Now this is where you also got to make sure that you understand in your questions. In this one right here, it says there's 3 phones, so I'm going to do this one time and then multiply the whole thing times 3. That makes sense? So we're looking at the wireless one. There is no charge for activation, but each of the phones cost $109. The 3 phones each use 250 minutes of roaming minutes. Taxes and other charges were 12%. What was Teleron's total phone bill from Wireless for the first month? So, a couple different ways that I could do this. I could try to find my grand total and then times it by 3, or times it by 3 at the very end. Okay? So, which way, I guess it doesn't really matter, but obviously we have 3 phones, right? So we're gonna have what, 109 was it? Times 3, okay? Or you could just do this and then do times 3 at the end, right? Okay, what other things do we have to pay for? A roaming charge, okay? 79 cents, does that mean 79 cents per? I would guess, right?
Roaming charge per.
Okay, so 250 times, what was it, 70 cents? 79 cents, and then are we still gonna multiply by 3? Yeah, because you'd have to assume that it is. So again, do I get that total and then multiply by 3, or multiply by 3 at the end? It doesn't matter, okay? What else? Do I got any other?
The tax,
Okay, how much is the tax?
12%.
Okay, so, before we get to the taxes, is there anything else that they're gonna charge us? Look at wireless.
Monthly rate?
We got a monthly rate yet too, right? So we got this one right here. Did anybody do this math? 250 times 79?
It's like 5.
197.5.
Times 3.
I didn't multiply.
5.
Okay. So, and then we'd have another 40 because we have to do our basic rate, right? So again, it all depends. I'm gonna just do my times 3 at the end. So this is basically going through the whole thing. Okay, anything else? So when do I do my taxes, or do my tax? On the total, right? So, now we're probably ready. These are the only 3 things that we need, right? So again, if you just are gonna multiply by 3 at the end, take a 109 plus 197.50 plus 40 times 3. How much is this?
1,164.24 cents.
I think say it one more time.
1,164.24 cents.
24, okay. Now we're gonna take this times what?
No, that's the,
Oh, this is the grand total?
yeah, the times 3 was 1,039.
Tax is 124.
Plus another $124
Yeah.
for a grand total of that? Let's see if you're right. 1,164.24, exactly right. Right? So, you gotta think about all that stuff, right? Kind of weird scenarios, right?
Combine an iPhone with that.
You can buy, yeah,
Yeah.
okay? And think about the phones that we have. Have you seen pictures of those things? Yeah.
Saved by the bell.
Yeah, there you go. The big old ones. There are some that you could carry like a lunch pail,
The
right?
bag phone.
And that were still connected. Alright. So yeah, interesting concept, right? Again, you guys don't have to worry about that, but I just wanted you to see kind of what we had to go through in the old days. And it really wasn't that long ago. if you think about it, right?
Sorry,
The old
lost over.
Okay?
Right notes to each other.
So the same thing, probably happens with the internet, right?
Yeah.
So they're talking about, the next two things are internet and expanded television service. The same thing probably happened with that for you guys too, right? How many people, if anybody, remembers having to use a dial-up internet?
Okay, we're not that old.
Okay? So dial-up internet meant that it was plugged into your phone, or your actual landline phone, not your cell
Oh,
phone.
like a LAN cable?
Yeah, like a LAN cable,
Oh,
okay?
dude.
So like,
Dude, give me flashlights.
so when you had to use this, nobody could use the
The
phone,
old Wii on the LAN cable.
right? If you wanted to use the internet, then nobody could use the phone for that time that you were connected to the internet.
That's
Okay.
awesome. That makes
And if
sense.
somebody wanted to then use the phone, you had to unplug the internet, and you had to disconnect.
That brings back so many memories.
And then, like, this could take a while, you would actually have to plug it back in, and you would hear it dial. So it dialed to the central kind of office to connect you, and then you would be connected.
Seems like a headache.
Yeah, so that was back in the old days too. So, as you go through this stuff, this is more about what they would charge for things. They're not gonna really get into what was faster or that kind of thing. So, in letter C, it says, Sal paid for a cable connection to area and ISP. The ISP charged a $25 installation fee, $75 for a network connection card for his computer, a monthly rental fee of $5 for a cable modem. So we had to go back and get a modem, so all this would plug into it. And then a monthly online access fee of $39.95 for an unlimited connection. Saul also bought antivirus software for $36.99. What will Saul's total cost be to connect to the internet for the first year? So here's the other thing. When you go through this, you got to make sure you understand what is the first time fee, do I pay for everything that they talk about in that paragraph every single month, or is it some of it's one or the other? So notice, they obviously said an installation fee, I'm only gonna pay that one time. You probably, or not probably, you only pay one time for the antivirus too, okay? But everything else is probably a monthly fee. So, anybody do the math? Or do you need to see what we're doing on the thing? On the board, I mean?
$676.39.
$676.39. So now you think about that, so divide that by 12, Carson, real quick.
$56.37.
The grand total was $676.39. So 50 what?
$56.37.
$56.37, and this was only for the internet. Okay, so we're not even talking about cable yet. That was just for the internet. Alright? Everybody good with how Carson got that? Because that was the right number. Okay? And then they get into the expanded television service. Now we're actually probably into the next step of it, because a lot of you probably don't even have cable anymore, do you? And you just get some kind of satellite maybe, or Netflix, some kind of streaming thing, right? Okay, so again, this would be way back when we were talking about cable, compared to a dish or DirecTV kind of type thing. And then, do you want any of the specialties, right? Do you want the sports package? Do you want the,
My grandpa still has dish.
dish?
Yeah.
Okay,
There's like a satellite there back there.
right, right, okay.
Those
So-
watches match, so you know.
Because now on what you were saying, Roku or whatever,
Yeah, just
Can
plug
you
that
watch-
into, like the HDMI, they come with a little box you plug in, you can watch it like that, everything. Like,
do you
just
get
watch-
sports with it?
Yeah, you get all the sports channels
Okay.
ESPN.
that are in your area.
And then the movie channels too?
Yeah, they're like, some of them aren't legal movies, but they have them on there. Kinda happens.
It happens.
Yeah.
Okay. So, basically, again, they're probably not gonna get into anything real, complex with what's better or whatever. But again, it's just about how to set it up and what you actually need. So again, make sure that you recognize if it's a monthly payment or if it's just a yearly thing or a one-time deal. Okay, so in letter E, no, let's go to F, because E, you gotta go back and read the other one. So go to F. A satellite television provider charges $29.99 per month for service. If you sign a 2-year contract, they will eliminate the $59.99 setup fee and charge only $24.99 per month. How much will you save by committing to a 2-year deal? So this one's kind of interesting, okay? You got to think a little bit. So what's the easiest way to figure out how much you're going to save? Okay, I got to do them both. You're right. So if I'm going to do it the first way, what are the things that I'm going to? So let's just say that I'm not going to do it for 2 years. If I'm only going to do it for 1 year.
24.99 per month times 12.
How much did you say?
Let's do $24.99 per month.
Was it $118.99? It's $149.
29.99 times 12, what's the difference?
Well, see, this is what I don't understand with this problem, I guess.
$149.
Because they calculate it still for 2 years.
Yeah, so you wanna.
They calculate it for still 2 years, even though that. So, go through the process of figuring out the first one for 2 years.
You should calculate.
So 179.99.
179.99 is what the actual answer is, yes. So this is where you would have to do the 29.99 times 24. So even though that you're not honestly committing to the 2 years, you would end up having to pay that per month for 2 years if you didn't sign that contract that way at the beginning. Okay? So you had $719.76 in there plus the installation fee, right, of $59.99. But in the other way, you would be charged only $24.99 times 24, so you'd get that answer and then subtract it out. That makes sense what I'm saying there? So even though that you're saying that it is a 1 year deal instead of the 2 year, you have to figure it for 2 years. So that's where it gets a little confusing with some of these problems. Okay? So again, this section honestly is probably outdated. It really is, but at the same time, it's kind of interesting to go back and see what we had to kind of put up with, I guess. Okay? So I want you to work through these problems, and especially the cell phone ones, because there's a lot of working through that chart, and some of us don't like charts too much.
Tables, chart's pretty simple.
Oh, this chart is? Okay.
Tables, I would say are